Hello and happy Tuesday to all of you. This week I've been preparing for a confirmation lesson on the gift of fortitude, and I feel like for all of us going on month 9 now, I think, of a global pandemic, we all really have the opportunity to cultivate the gift of fortitude in our lives. So fortitude is closely related to courage. It involves strength to face opposition and adversity, as well as a commitment to stand for the truth. And when we envision strength and courage, we often, I think, imagine kind of physical strength, maybe a martyr or a war hero. But I kind of want to broaden our understanding of fortitude a little bit to include both external but also internal fortitude. And I want to do this by sharing a little bit about the life of a saint who exemplified both this internal and external fortitude in her life. And this is Saint Edith Stein. St. Edith Stein was born in Germany in 1891 to a large Jewish family. By her teens, she had actually completely lost her faith and become an atheist. She studied German and history, though she was always really interested in philosophy and women's issues, and she describes herself as a radical suffragette. She was refused positions in academia, both because of her gender and because of her Jewish origin. And eventually her studies and encounters with people of faith led to her ultimate conversion to Catholicism in 1922. She joined the Carmelite convent of Cologne and took the name Teresa Benedicta of the Cross. And this happened a few years before the anti-Semitism really began to dominate life in Europe. And once this began, her convent, seeking to protect her, sent her abroad. And in 1942, she was arrested by the Gestapo, and this was along with many other Jewish Christians. And only a few days later, she and many others ended up being gassed at Auschwitz. And it's evident that St. Edith Stein faced many external adversities from her story, from the short summary of her story above. She was discriminated against because of her gender and her ethnicity, and she experienced a great deal of familial tension after her conversion, and really faced a time of facing the imminence of death. At one point she wrote, "Even now I accept the death that God has prepared for me in complete submission and with joy as being his most holy will for me. I ask the Lord to accept my life and my death, so that the Lord will be accepted by his people, and that his kingdom may come in glory for the salvation of Germany and the peace of the world." Throughout it all, it's so clear that St. Edith Stein sought the truth above all things and remained faithful and courageous even in the midst of terrible suffering. It was written of her that she is a witness to God's presence in a world where God is absent. In addition to this witness of external fortitude, it's less well known, but she also suffered greatly from depression for significant portions of her life. And this began before her conversion to Catholicism and continued into her life as a religious sister. Amidst her bouts of depression and suicidal ideation, St. Edith's strength came in fully and completely resting in God's grace. Her internal and external fortitude really, I think, are closely related. It's written about her that she faced that extreme situation with the serenity and peaceful soul of someone who learned to deal with the ups and downs of depression, seeing beyond the immediate and embracing a life that never ends because it is eternal, and which is able to shine even in the deepest darkness of death in a concentration camp. Today, while very different from what Edith Stein faced, many of us may be facing various kinds of suffering in our own lives. Maybe the isolation and the loneliness is really wearing on you. Maybe you feel that you're just living from a place of fear and anxiety that's taking its toll. Maybe you or a loved one are physically ill. Maybe you're grieving the loss of someone dear to you. Or maybe you or your child or a friend are facing mental illness that has often invisible but still very real suffering. Wherever we are, let us be inspired by St. Edith Stein's life and her witness to great hope and drawing near to God in the midst of her suffering. As we witness in her story, darkness, fear, pain and mental illness do not prevent us from drawing near to our loving Father. Rather, it is within our suffering that God brings the hope of new life. There can be no resurrection without the cross. Let us pray this week for St. Edith's intercession to give us fortitude to carry our crosses, to bear our suffering with grace and hope. I pray that you all have a very peaceful week, and I look forward to talking with you again next Tuesday.